Turning left, we pass through the easterly wall by way of the new gate. This modern gate was designed by Sir Walter Tapper and built in 1938. Immediately to its right, dating from the medieval period, sits the original gate, known as the Pepper Gate or the Wolf Gate. By the 1930s, with increasing traffic on the roads, severe congestion occurred under the town's archway, resulting in the newer, wider bridge being built. We are now in Pepper Street, which is where in medieval times the spice merchants once lived and worked. Prior to this, the southerly wall of the Roman fortress would have been on the right. Today there are restaurants, shops and the modern indoor retail area known as the Grosner Shopping Centre. We are now approaching stop 7, Pepper Street. A light here for the Rose, the city centre shops, the city walls, for the Cathedral and the Diva Roman experience. In the pedestrian heart of Chester, there is an area known as the Cross where the city's four main streets converge. An intersection has existed here since the Roman occupation in the 1st century AD. Bridge Street, Watergate Street and Eastgate Street follow the course of the original Roman roads. Only Northgate Street at the southern end is post-Roman, resulting in the staggered crossroads seen at this point. The name of this important area of the city dates back to the medieval period, when a high cross built of local red sandstone was erected in the 14th century. In 1646, during the English Civil War, the cross was demolished after the surrender of Chester to the parliamentarians. Some of the original fragments of stone were discovered in the 19th century and incorporated into the restoration. In 1975, the High Cross was returned to its original medieval position. Ahead on the left, the old Falcon Inn can be seen on the corner. In earlier times it was the townhouse of the wealthy Grosner family. As they do today, and as they have done for centuries, they lived on their estate outside the walls. By the 1970s, the building was in a dilapidated state, and the then Duke Gerald Grosner carried out restoration work on the building, for which in 1983 he received an award for his efforts. We are now at stop 8, Grosvenor Street. A light here for the Rose, the Grosvenor Museum, the Military Museum and the Chester Castle. Ahead on the left is the Grosvenor Museum, which was built in 1885. The museum is named after Duke Grosvenor, the first Duke of Westminster, who donated the land and also subscribed £4,000 towards the building costs. The museum contains numerous galleries and exhibitions, including, amongst others, the award-winning Roman Stones Gallery, which features the largest collection of Roman headstones in the country. Admission is free, but donations are appreciated. On the left, the roundabout ahead, is Chester's War Bombing Castle. It's designed in the classical style by the architect Thomas Marsden. Building work commenced in 1798, and because it took more than 30 years to complete, Harrison built a home here. been a sports ground of sorts. Centuries ago, this is where the apprentices of the Craftsmen's Guild played football. But sad to say that even in those times, games had to be abandoned because of some The old word for cross was road, and one of the old words for an island was an inn, and consequently that's how the racecourse came by the name it's known as today, the Rudee, or the Isle of the Cross. As well as a very full racing calendar commencing in May, the area hosts many other events throughout the season. These include show jumping, football and polo matches, an exciting Roman day with chariot racing, various concerts and exhibitions, and ends with a spectacular firework display in November. Beyond the roundabout ahead, the bus is now in an area known as Hanbridge, one of the oldest suburbs in the city. To both the left and right is Overley Cemetery, developed by the Victorians in the 19th century. There is a section of war graves on the right, and many of Chester's famous dignitaries lie at rest to the left. Overley Cemetery opened in 1850 and was the resting place of many interesting characters. One such character was Edward Langtry, who died in Chester in 1897. He was the husband of the notorious London actress Lily Langtry, who was the mistress of Edward VII. The only mourners at Edward's funeral were his brother and sister. Lily, of course, was absent, but she did send some flowers. Mary and Kilroy Finney, who were the king and queen of the Roman Gypsies, are buried here. It is a tradition in gypsy folklore that every time they pass a royal grave, they pay homage by placing flowers. Mary Jonas died when she was 85 and was buried here in 1899. Mary had 33 children, which included 15 sets of boy-girl twins, the highest number ever recorded, and consequently this event has its place in the Guinness Book of Records. The ladies on the bus might like to know that Mary never ever suffered from that dreaded female complaint, the headache. In the 19th century, Hanbridge became known as the Duke's Village. At that time, the first Duke, Grosner, set about building many of his estate workers' homes here. Look at the decorative houses coming into view on the left, which carry a blue-black paint brickwork. Optional in Tudor times, it was revived by the Victorians. The Duke employed this style in many of his brick properties because it appeared to portray lots of interlocal W's, thus highlighting the Westminster title. So delighted was the King's elevation to the dukedom that he emblazoned it on numerous buildings around the cities and beyond. We are now at stop 9, Overley Road, a light here for Hanbridge. Ahead on the left is a church known as St. Mary's without the walls. The church was consecrated in 1887, replacing the Church of St. Mary's on the Hill, which stands within the city walls. The first Duke of Westminster paid for the parish church to be built, which is employed in the Romans quarried vast amounts of sandstone from the Cathedral. Ahead on the left is an area of parkland known as Edwards Field. England had a palace here. When he visited this site in the 10th century, 8 vassal kings rode him up the river to St. John's Church and then back down again to show their allegiance to him. river via the old Blue Bridge. It is believed that a Roman fort was crossed here, and several wooden bridges before the present stone bridge was built. To the right is Chester's Weir, which was built in the 11th century by Hugh Lucas, the first Norman earl. The Dee Mills, which once stood on the river bank, for turning the mill wheels. And immediately on the left is the Baron Billet, which bears the date of 1864. It's the last large black and white stainless built in the city before brick buildings. The building is known for its largest span of 1,600 tiny windows, and was originally built as a townhouse for the custodians of the bridge gate. They levied tolls on all goods as they passed through the gate. Today, the building is a public house and restaurant. We are now at stop 10, Lower Bridge Street. A light here for the Bridge Street shops, the Rose and the Diva experience. On the left is the old King's Head Hotel, built in 1622 to be the Chester home of the Randall Hume family. They were wealthy merchants who constructed this lovely building from second-hand ship's timbers that they acquired from the old port of Chester. Could this have been done for economy, or was it that the Randall Hume family were pioneers of the recycling that is so important today? Ahead and to the right is one of Chester's original timber frame buildings, the old Tudor house, and as can be seen, it leans very severely to one side. This is reputed to have occurred during the Civil War of the 17th century, when the building was said to have been struck by cannonballs fired by the invading parliamentarians who were very close to the city. Most people today suggest that this is more likely to be due to old age, but it boasts a data exchange often being over. As the bus turns left, directly ahead in the upper part of Bridge Street are the Chester Roads, the amazing steel shops that date from the early 13th century. They are unique to Chester throughout the world, and some of the finest timber-framed architecture can be seen in this very special area. The roads consist of buildings and shops on both the street and at the first floor level, where they have open a large circular building. The site was previously occupied by the Cheshire County Police Headquarters. The new building, completed in 2010, is still known as HQ and houses an hotel, restaurants, offices and private residences. The modern architecture has been thoughtfully designed in the style of the Roman Museum. We are now entering Nicholas Street, approaching stop 11, a light here for the Rudy Racecourse. And immediately on the right is Chester's modern Magistrates Court. Designed by the Cheshire County Architecture Department, it was built in 1991 in the style of a Roman villa. It was given a civil award in 1995, and then combined itself with rock architecture into the elegant house of the Royal Tower developed in the 1780s, designed by Dickens. The longest example of this type of property in Chester. Similar properties which used to stand to the right were demolished in the 1960s to make way for the inner England. In the 19th century, the houses were mainly occupied by doctors who lived and practiced here, and hence the local people of the day nicknamed the street Pillbox Promenade. 17th century in a state of disrepair. Given over to the city, it was restored in the 1930s when a port was located across the street headway. River Dee flowed close to the city walls. The custody of the gate was given to the Stanley family, who were later to become the Earls of Derby. By the women of Chester, whilst the men were fighting. The local women of today say smugly that is the obvious reason why it's still standing in such excellent condition today. As we turn right, the Scotland Women's Canal and Tower Wall are on the left. To the right, in order to provide the means for raising and lowering barges from 32 feet these locks, together with the canal basin, were designed construction work started on the Chester Canal in 1772, but due to financial after the demise of Chester's river port, the canal system provided Chester with essential trade links to portability and the national network. From the top of Canal Street, and as the bus turns left, directly ahead is the Fountains Roundabout, so named for the fountain. During the Fountains construction, the discovery here of many Roman headstones and tombs showed the area to be wonderfully Roman burial ground. The road also is left there because being pagan people believing in ghosts and evil spirits, they certainly wouldn't have wanted any such visitations whilst in their beds at night. Langtry is known as the gateway to North Wales, the border about 2 miles away, and to the left a fine view of the Welsh hills can be seen far away in the distance. The relationship between the Welsh and the English hasn't always been as friendly as it is today. In the late 13th century, Edward I made Chester Castle the base for his campaigns in Wales. During the following century, Owen Glyndwr's rebellion put Chester in real danger. In 1403, Prince Henry, who later became Henry V, made a proclamation that if any Welsh person were found inside the city walls after sunset, they would have their heads cut off. Up till now, no decapitations have been recorded, and any Welsh person on the bus today needs to know that the law has never ever been repealed. Chester's famous zoo is situated just a few miles from the city centre. Founder, Lord Pottershead, visited the zoo in Manchester when he was a young boy in 1903. As an animal lover, he was horrified to see all the animals were kept in cages, and it fueled his concept of building a zoo without bars. He eventually bought land in a run-down property near Chester called Oakfield. George and his family worked hard to build up the zoo and help realise his dream. Instead of bars, moats, ditches and grassy woodlands were created to protect the public. Although there was great opposition from local residents, the zoo was finally opened to the public. Set in lovely grounds, the zoo's land area and species of animals greatly increased over the years, thus enabling their important conservation programme. When we turn right at the bottom of Delamere Street, the city northern wall will be directly ahead. 13 quarters of the Roman wall have survived here, and it is one of the finest examples of a Roman fortress wall in northern Europe. On top of the wall is a sandstone tower known as King Charles Tower. In September 1645, it is said that King Charles I stood on top of this tower to see his defeated army returning from the Battle of Rowton Hall. We are now at stop 1, Grosner and the Chester Bus interchange. Alight here for the city centre shops, the city walls, the Cathedral and Flodgett Street. Welcome aboard the city sightseeing. Concerned for the safety of the residents inside Chester's walls, local dignitaries demanded that all doors should be put back outside the eastern wall, resulting in the name still in use today.
So sad. Let's take pictures of all the lame people.
Shortly, as we pass over the canal bridge into Flodgett Street, watch out for the opening to the right, which appears to be a small cobbled street. The Roman easterly wall can be seen at the far end of this walkway, and situated in the wall is a gate dating from 1275, which is still known today as the Cathedral Gate. The monks grew oak kale in their vegetable gardens, which was situated just outside the wall in the area ahead to the right. Prior to this time, the monks had to endure a long walk
Hello,
from the
take your
back to the wall. For over 200 years, they petitioned the Cathedral, but their requests were returned to Langtry, who claimed the eventually, the strongest preconditions were met. The gate had to be strong and defensive, it had to be low enough to prevent the walls being concealed, and it had to be locked every night at every time. Tradition which has continued every night for well over 700 years. Bus turns to the left. Note the east gate to the right. Standing proudly above it, Chester's most famous landmark, the East Gate Clock. Built in 1897 to commemorate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, the clock has become the symbol of Chester throughout the world. Nowadays, it is the second most photographed clock in the country, after Big Ben in London. Beneath the clock, the East Gate itself was built in 1769 to replace the medieval gateway. During excavations, the remains of the Roman gateway, known as the Porta Principalis Sinistra, was discovered on the site. We are now in Foregate Street, the eastern approach to the city. From here, the road marched eastward to York and southwards to London by way of Watling Street. Excavations in this area have revealed evidence of a civilian settlement. The civilian population established their trading area here to serve the needs of the Roman legion who lived within the fortress walls.
Did you take that picture? That was pretty spot on, that.
Ahead and to the right is one of Chester's original timber frame buildings. Built in 1571, it is typical of the architecture of that time, with the first story overhanging the lower and supported by wooden pillars. In earlier centuries, taxes were paid according to the amount of land taken up by the building area, and consequently, properties such as this, built as small as possible at ground level and extended outwards at first story level, as typified here. Obviously, by doing so, large amounts of money were saved. One might say that this was an early example of tax evasion. We are now at stop 2, Foregate Street and the Old Queen's Head. A light here for the city centre, the Bars roundabout, and the suburb of Gordon. The Old Queen's Head Public House is one of the many black and white timber frame buildings in the city. On one gable, the date is seen as 1508, whilst on the other side it states 1939. During the Civil War in the 17th century, the royal city of Chester was left devastated, with many of its buildings left in ruins. Since the Victorian era, the city has been greatly altered, with new buildings being constructed and the older ones being heavily restored, as seen here.
Try to get it in.
are you going?
We are now at the bars, an area not actually associated at all with alcoholic beverages, as the name instantly implies. The famous circuit of walls that we see today wasn't its sole defence in medieval times, and the bar's anti-defensive gate stood here to protect the expanding population in the eastern suburbs. During the Civil War in the 17th century, Chester was a royalist stronghold, supporting King Charles I, and as a defensive measure against the invading parliamentarian forces, the royalists built earthworks on either side of the gate, thus embracing all the outlying areas. The gate was demolished in 1770, but the name lives on. And other hotels. As the bus crosses over the canal ahead, look to the right. Beyond the apartments is the Lead Shot Tower. It was built in 1799, and by 1801 it was manufacturing lead shot or musket balls to be used in the Napoleonic Wars. Workers carried heavy lead ingots to the top of the tower, where they were then heated in crucibles until they became liquid. Arsenic was then added as a hardening agent. This deadly concoction was then poured down the tower, where it passed through large metal sieves, forming gobs. It then landed in a bath of water, and when retrieved, it was a perfect spherical lead shot. Turns to the left, the last building on the right is the Queen Hotel. Built by the railway companies in 1860, it was the most prestigious hotel in the area and was specifically built to accommodate tourists coming into Chester via the railway. The main entrance of the Queen Hotel is actually facing the railway station. Above this entrance stands a statue of Queen Victoria, in whose honour the hotel was named. Note the connecting covered walkway leading from the hotel to the station, and the sign above the open arch, offering carriages and horses for hire. Hotel porters use this walkway to escort the guests to and from the station. Many famous guests stayed at the Queen Hotel, such as the actress Lily Langtry, the notorious mistress of Edward VII. Cecil Rhodes, the founder of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, is said to have plotted the Boer War while strolling in the hotel gardens. In 1867, another distinguished guest was Charles Dickens, the famous writer. Arriving in a very severe winter, Dickens complained about his accommodation, comparing his coldness with that of a piece of meat in a larder. We are now at stop 4, the railway station. If you are leaving now, then we hope that you have enjoyed both the tour and your visit to Chester. The famous footballers Michael Owen and Danny Murphy were also born in Chester. Liverpool Football Club is just one of the many clubs that they have played for. They have both represented England at international level. Finally, William Frederick Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill, was accompanied by Annie Oakley when he visited Chester in 1903 to perform his Wild West show on the Oakley racecourse. We now enter Brook Street, and the small building ahead on the right opened as a cocoa house in the Victorian As we pass the building, look above the ground floor window where a decorative sign can be seen declaring that the building was owned by the Chester Cocoa House Company. Cocoa houses were built by members of the Temperance Society to combat the scourge of alcohol amongst the poor. It was hoped that they would draw the public away from the 365 pubs that existed in the city at that time. So cheap was alcohol, it was said that you could get drunk for a penny and dead drunk for tuppence. Entering Hull Way, we can see directly ahead of us that Chester Cathedral dominates the skyline. In approximately 660 AD, a small Saxon timber church dedicated to St. Peter and St. Paul was founded here by King Wulfhere, father of St. Werburgh. St. Werburgh was born in the 7th century and she became a revered nun in the Saxon kingdom of Mercia. After her death in 706, her remains were buried in Langtry, Staffordshire. In the latter half of the 9th century, Vikings were raiding the country. In order to protect the saint's relics from the marauding Danes, they were brought into the church within the fortified walls. A shrine, built to house the relics, still stands in the cathedral today. Major changes occurred on the site after the Battle of Hastings in 1066. William the Conqueror gave Chester into the hands of his nephew, Hugh d'Avranches, better known as Hugh the Wolf. Granting him the earldom of Chester, Hugh later founded a Benedictine abbey here. In the 16th century, Henry VIII came to the throne. To solve his marital and financial problems, he broke from the Church of Rome and created himself head of the Church of England. In 1540, he spoke and closed most of the Church in Chester was saved and it became the Anglican Cathedral in the Congregated Houses of Chester. In 1521, As we exit the roundabout and move into Grosner Park Road, the red brick building on the left was designed in the Dutch style by the famous local architect John Douglas. The building date, 1884, can be seen in the Flemish gable brickwork. For many years this building was used as Chester's first police headquarters until a more modern building replaced it in the 1960s. Also on the left, we have more of John Douglas's work from the late 19th century. The church was built in the early English style, and the terrace of houses is considered to be the most decorative brick terrace in the city. Ahead and to the right are Victorian public swimming baths, the work of the talented local architect John Douglas. Built in a mixture of red brick and mock Tudor style in 1900, it still serves today as a swimming pool for the local swimming clubs and schools. Take note of the wonderful barley sugar chimney stacks on the roof. Originally fashionable in Tudor times, they were a great favourite of the architect and could be spotted throughout the city and the suburbs. To break in the buildings ahead on the right, the Love Street, a once notorious part of the city. Love Lane, as it was originally known, where the ladies of the oldest profession in the world carried out their business. In modern times, it would have been the city's red light district. However, some of the purer members of our society suggest this is wrong, and that the word loving is the old word used for the bonding together of two pieces of metal, and therefore couldn't really be where the ladies of the night worked, but where the blacksmiths worked. Most of us, though not so pure-minded, think that the more popular theory is the correct one. We are now at stop 5, Vicar's Lane. Alight here for Grosner Park, the Roman Amphitheatre and St John the Baptist Church. First public meeting place, Roman Amphitheatre, is on the left, where it was built in a commanding position on the southeastern side of the fortress. Archaeological evidence suggests that the first amphitheatre was built around 80 AD, later to be replaced by a larger monumental stone structure. The outer walls reached 30 feet, twice the height of the city walls seen ahead, and providing seating capacity for approximately 7,000 people. Recent excavations revealed the outer walls of the two structures. The modern low sandstone walls rest on the top of the original walls buried beneath them. The large mural on the rear wall creates the illusion of how the total amphitheatre would have appeared in the Roman times. It was the largest stone amphitheatre built in Roman Britain and is known today as the Lost Colosseum. We are now about to enter Suitor's Lane. Please be aware that tree branches may occasionally overhang the bus. Suitor is the old word for a shoemaker, and anybody who worked with leather had their tannery in this area. We are now approaching the River Dee, and leather workers needed the continual supplies of river water to treat their hides and skins. We are now approaching stop 6, the Groves, a light here for river trips and riverside walks. The river trip takes half an hour, and upon your return another tour bus will arrive shortly to take you on with the tour. If you have not already purchased a combined bus and boat ticket, then you can upgrade your ticket with the driver, who will be happy to give advice and save you money.
There's the Jackie still going. Jackie.
Sorry.
Put on different accents so we don't sound deaf.
Thank you, that was great.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Rich, what time do you go? Yeah, cheers, mate.